The night everything started, my mother-in-law was sitting across the table from me, explaining how bad the service was at Neiman's, while my husband kept texting someone under the table. She didn't know I was already watching the numbers. None of them did. If anyone had walked into our penthouse that evening, they would have seen a calm, expensive life. Dallas stretched below the windows. Dinner was already served. My husband Ryan sat at the head of the table. His mother, Elaine Bishop, sat beside him like she owned the place. Elaine tasted the stew slowly, then commented on it without looking at me. She said it was hearty, then compared it to food she used to eat before the Bishop family made real money. She reminded me she had given me the recipe herself. She always did that. Ryan didn't react. He was focused on his phone, scrolling, typing, stopping only to take bites without tasting. When I asked him if the food was okay, he said yes without looking up. Elaine smiled at that. She said Ryan had always been easy to please. She said he didn't need much, just loyalty and support. She placed her black credit card on the table as she spoke, next to her wine glass, tapping it lightly with her fingers. She complained about shopping earlier that day, waiting 10 minutes for staff, limited editions being kept in the back. She said people moved faster when they saw that card. She thanked Ryan for taking care of her properly and said it was good to know her son understood legacy. Ryan said cash flow was tight this month. Elaine laughed and told him not to worry about money. She then told me to take her cashmere wrap to the cleaners in the morning. She specified which one. She said she needed it for a gala. I told her I had a work call in the morning. Ryan sighed and said it was just a Zoom call. Elaine said a wife's job was to make life run smoothly, especially for family. She stood up and left the table without clearing her plate. Ryan followed shortly after. He kissed my cheek quickly and said he was exhausted. He smelled like a perfume I didn't own. He said I'd handle the cleanup. He was already looking at his phone again as he walked away. I cleaned the kitchen alone, the dishwasher hummed, the penthouse was quiet. Elaine's black card was still on the counter. She had left it there on purpose, expecting me to put it back in her purse. She believed that card belonged to her son. She believed this apartment belonged to the Bishop family. She believed my life existed because of them. She didn't know whose name was on the accounts. She didn't know what I actually did for a living. And she didn't know that the spending on that card had already started to look wrong. Not yet. The next morning, I went to work like I always did. I left the penthouse before Elaine woke up and before Ryan noticed I was gone. I didn't rush. Nothing had changed yet, at least not on the surface. At my office, I logged in and opened the household account dashboard. I checked it every day. It wasn't about control. It was habit. Numbers don't lie, and I trusted them more than people. Elaine's card stood out immediately. The spending pattern was different, not higher, just sharper. Large charges clustered on the same weekday. Thursdays, restaurants, lounges, boutiques, always upscale, always late. I pulled up the details. One charge was from a rooftop restaurant known for couples. Another was from a jazz lounge downtown, then a high-end boutique, followed by a spa. The times lined up too cleanly to be random. I checked my calendar. On those same Thursdays, Ryan had excuses: late meetings, client dinners, a broken-down car, a sudden trip out of town. I remembered each one because I had adjusted my schedule around them. I didn't confront him, I didn't text him, I didn't ask questions. I opened the raw transaction logs instead. I compared timestamps, merchant IDs, locations. The pattern was consistent. While I was reviewing the data, my phone buzzed. It was a message from Tori Lawson. We had been friends in university. She worked as a lifestyle reporter now. We didn't talk often, which is why the message stood out. "I'm sorry," she wrote, "but you need to see this." There was a photo attached. It was taken inside a luxury boutique. Ryan was sitting on a velvet bench, his arm around a young woman I didn't recognize. She was leaning into him, smiling. Elaine was sitting across from them, holding up a pair of heels, showing them to the girl like she was family. In Elaine's hand was the black card. I didn't zoom in, I didn't need to. The time on the photo matched the pending transaction on my screen. Same store, same minute, same amount. I stared at the image until the connection settled. This wasn't an affair hidden in the shadows. This was organized, supervised, funded. Ryan wasn't just cheating. Elaine was involved. She was choosing gifts. Paying for them, sitting beside them like this was normal. I set the phone down and went back to the dashboard. A new charge appeared, still pending, same boutique. I leaned back in my chair and waited. I didn't feel shocked. I didn't cry. I felt clear. The way I feel when a system failure finally explains months of irregular data. They thought I didn't notice. They thought I didn't understand. They thought money appeared because it always had. They were wrong. I opened a new document and titled it with a single line. Account review. That was all. I didn't confront anyone that day. I didn't change my routine. I went home at the usual time. I listened. I watched. I let them talk. Elaine was in the living room when I arrived, on the phone, laughing. She talked about dinner plans and a new place she wanted to try. She didn't lower her voice when she saw me. She never did. Ryan came home late again. He said traffic was bad. He said a client had kept him longer than expected. I nodded and said nothing. That night, after they went to bed, I opened my laptop in the study. I logged into the banking portal again. The pending charge from earlier had cleared. Then another appeared, smaller, same location, same card. I pulled the last 3 months of data and laid it out cleanly. Dates, places, amounts. Thursdays were consistent, always Elaine's card. Always locations Ryan claimed to be near for work. Always luxury spending that wasn't for Elaine. I didn't guess who the girl was. I didn't need her name yet. What mattered was structure. Elaine wasn't hiding anything. She was confident. Confident people don't think they can be touched. The next day, Ryan mentioned he had to go to Houston again. Elaine reminded him to bring back something nice. She smiled at me while saying it, like it was a private joke I wasn't part of. I waited until Ryan left the apartment. Then I opened the credit card management screen. I didn't freeze anything. I didn't alert the bank. I just reviewed permissions. Elaine's card was a supplementary card. Always had been. It didn't exist on its own. It depended on the main account, my account. I checked the alert settings. Ryan's phone number was still listed for notifications. I removed it. I redirected everything to my private email. I closed the system and went about my day. That afternoon, another message came from Tori. She didn't say much, just confirmed what I already knew. Elaine had been seen shopping with Ryan and the same girl more than once. Public places. No secrecy. That told me something important. They weren't worried about me finding out. They assumed that even if I did, nothing would change. That night, Elaine placed her black card on the counter again after dinner. She always did. She expected me to manage details. Cleaning, organizing, fixing. I picked it up. I looked at the number on the back. I memorized the last 4 digits. Then I put it down exactly where she left it. I wasn't angry yet. Anger makes people careless. I was preparing. On Thursday, I didn't ask Ryan where he was going. He told me anyway. He said he had dinner with a potential client and might be late. Elaine reminded him to wear the watch she liked. She asked him to pick up something sweet on the way home if he remembered. I watched them leave. I didn't follow, I didn't call. I opened my laptop and logged in. At 7:38 p.m., the first charge appeared. A restaurant downtown. The kind that required reservations and didn't split bills. I checked the address. It wasn't near any office Ryan had ever worked with. At 8:54 p.m., another charge. Same card. A boutique next door to the restaurant. At 9:12 p.m., champagne added to the bill. I waited. At 9:47 p.m., a photo arrived from Tori. This one was clearer than the last. Ryan was standing outside the restaurant, holding the door open. The girl stepped out first. Elaine followed, smiling. No secrecy, no shame. At 10:03 p.m., the largest charge of the night appeared. Shoes, then accessories, then a separate charge for gift wrapping. I didn't feel surprised. I felt confirmed. I opened the credit account profile and reviewed the limits again. High, untouched, trusted. Elaine had never been told no. I hovered over the option to suspend the card. I didn't click it. Not yet. Ryan came home close to midnight. He said the dinner ran long. Elaine came back shortly after, carrying shopping bags. She didn't try to hide them. She never did. She told Ryan the girl was lovely and had good taste. She said she reminded her of herself when she was younger. Ryan laughed. I stayed quiet. Elaine went to bed. Ryan followed. I stayed up. At 12:41 a.m., I received the final notification of the night. The total amount settled. The receipt attached itself automatically. I saved it. I opened a new folder on my desktop and labeled it with the date. Inside, I placed screenshots of every transaction, every timestamp, every location. This wasn't about emotions anymore. This was documentation. I closed the laptop and turned off the lights. The next move wouldn't be loud. It would be administrative. The next morning, I woke up before either of them. I didn't rush. I made coffee, checked my phone, and reviewed the receipts I had saved the night before. Everything was clean. Times matched, locations matched. There were no gaps. Ryan came into the kitchen and said he was tired. He said the client had been difficult. Elaine joined us a few minutes later and complained about her feet hurting. She said shopping had been exhausting. She mentioned the girl again, said she had good energy and would fit in well at social events. I nodded. I said nothing. After they left, I went to my office and closed the door. I didn't open new files. I didn't start investigations. I already had enough. What I needed now was control. I logged into the banking system and pulled up the account structure. Primary account holder, me. Supplementary users, Elaine, one card, one dependency. I reviewed the permissions slowly. Spending limits, merchant categories, notification routing, everything was still set for convenience, for trust. I changed none of it. Instead, I opened a blank page and wrote a short list. Dates, places, amounts, witnesses. Under witnesses, I wrote one name, Tori. Then I added another line. Public exposure risk, high. That mattered. People like Elaine didn't fear private consequences. They feared embarrassment. Around noon, a new charge appeared. Not Thursday. That was new. A boutique in the afternoon, smaller amount, still the same pattern. I checked the location. Elaine wasn't alone this time either. Tori confirmed it later with a short message. Same girl, same behavior, same confidence. They were accelerating. That meant they felt safe. That night, Elaine asked me to remind Ryan to transfer money for a club event. She said the card had limits and she didn't want to deal with delays. I said I would tell him. I didn't. I watched Ryan check his phone twice during dinner. He smiled at the screen once. Elaine noticed and smiled too. That was when I understood something clearly. They weren't hiding because they didn't think they had to. They believed the money was endless. They believed I was part of the background, not the system. I finished my food, stood up, and cleared my plate. Later, alone in the study, I opened the credit card control panel again. This time, I didn't hesitate. I clicked into Elaine's card profile and reviewed the status. Active. I didn't suspend it. I scheduled it. The change wouldn't happen immediately. It would happen when it mattered most. I set the timing and closed the system. The first move was ready. Thursday came again. Elaine dressed carefully that morning. She mentioned lunch plans and said she might do some shopping after. Ryan said he had meetings all day and would join later. Neither of them looked at me when they said it. I went to work as usual. By early afternoon, the first notification appeared. Restaurant, downtown, same pattern, same confidence. I didn't react, I let it sit. At 3:10 p.m., a boutique charge came through. Shoes, high amount. I checked the location. Lux Galleria, the same place from before. I opened the account dashboard and watched in real time. At 3:27 p.m., another charge attempt started. This was the one I had scheduled for. The system processed it automatically. Declined. I didn't smile, I didn't move. 30 seconds later, another attempt, same card. Declined. Then another. Declined. My phone rang, I let it ring. Then it rang again. Elaine's name flashed on the screen. I didn't answer. A few minutes later, Ryan called. I didn't answer that either. I watched the dashboard instead. 3 more failed attempts, then silence. A message appeared in my inbox from the bank. Multiple declined transactions detected. Account secure. I marked it as read. Later that evening, Ryan came home first. He didn't say anything at first. He paced. He checked his phone. He finally asked if the internet was slow. I said I didn't know. Elaine came in 20 minutes later. No shopping bags. Her face was tight. She didn't sit down. She asked me if I had touched the cards. I said I hadn't noticed anything. She said there must be a system error. She said the cashier was rude. She said people were staring. She said it was humiliating. Ryan backed her up. He said these things happen. He said I should call the bank in the morning. I nodded. Elaine went to her room. Ryan followed. I stayed in the living room and opened my laptop. More notifications came in. Secondary card attempts, another decline, then another. I closed the laptop and went to bed. That night, no one slept well. The next day, the consequences started spreading. The next morning, Elaine was already awake when I came into the kitchen. She was on the phone, speaking sharply, repeating her name more than once. She ended the call and said the bank had frozen the card for security reasons. She said this kind of thing happened when accounts were flagged by mistake. She said Ryan would fix it. Ryan didn't answer. He had left early. By mid-morning, I saw the next alert. Elaine had tried to use a second card, same account, same result, declined. She didn't hide her frustration anymore. She walked through the apartment, opening drawers, checking her purse, dialing numbers. She called the bank again. She put the phone on speaker this time. The representative asked to speak to the primary account holder. Elaine froze. She said Ryan handled the finances. The representative repeated the request. Elaine ended the call. When Ryan finally called her back, I could hear his voice through the phone. He told her he was in meetings. He told her to calm down. He told her not to make a scene. She made one anyway. She said she needed cash. She said she had plans. She said she couldn't be seen canceling things. Ryan told her to use another card. She said there was no other card. That afternoon, Elaine tried to book her regular car service. The ride was canceled. Account issue. She tried again. Same result. She asked me if I had changed something. I said I hadn't. She told me she needed to get to an event. I suggested using an app. She didn't like that answer. By evening, the apartment felt different. The air conditioning wasn't as cold. Elaine complained. Ryan said we should lower expenses until the card issue was fixed. Dinner was quiet. Elaine barely ate. Ryan kept checking his phone. I watched both of them. After dinner, Elaine received another call. This time, her country club. The manager was polite. He said the outstanding balance needed to be cleared. He said privileges would be suspended if it wasn't resolved. Elaine said there must be a mistake. She said she had been a member for years. The call ended. She sat down slowly. For the first time, she didn't speak. Ryan looked at me and said we needed to talk about finances. He said maybe things had gotten out of hand. He said we needed to be careful. I agreed. That night, I reviewed the account again. Everything was working exactly as intended. They were still confused. They still thought this was temporary. By the third day, confusion turned into panic. Ryan came home earlier than usual. He didn't sit down. He asked direct questions for the first time. He asked if I had moved money, changed banks, or closed anything without telling him. I said no. Elaine stayed in her room most of the day. When she came out, she was quiet. She no longer ordered. She asked if the internet bill had been paid. She asked if groceries were coming. She asked if the driver had called. Nothing had been paid. I hadn't shut everything off. I had just stopped renewing. Every service was tied to the same structure. Once the card failed, the rest followed on schedule. That afternoon, Ryan tried to transfer money to his own account. I saw the attempt. It failed. He tried again. Smaller amount, failed again. He didn't say anything to me. He locked himself in the bedroom and made calls. None of them lasted long. Elaine finally confronted me that evening. She stood in the kitchen and said she needed access to the bank. She said this was getting serious. She said people were talking. I asked her who. She didn't answer. Instead, she said the girl had stopped replying. She said Ryan had embarrassed her. She said none of this would have happened if finances were handled properly. Ryan entered halfway through the sentence. He told his mother to stop. He told her this wasn't helping. Then he looked at me and said I needed to call the bank in the morning. I said I would look into it. That night I didn't sleep. I didn't need to. I watched transaction attempts come in and fail one by one. I watched subscriptions pause. I watched services cancel automatically. Around 2 a.m., a new alert appeared. Ryan's stipend account. He tried to access it. Denied. That wasn't automatic, that was manual. I had removed him from payroll earlier that day. By morning, he would know. Elaine woke up to missed calls and unanswered messages. Ryan woke up to an empty balance. Neither of them knew what I knew. They thought they were losing control. They didn't realize it was already gone. Ryan discovered the missing money before he discovered the reason. He stood in the bedroom staring at his phone, refreshing the screen again and again. He checked the date. He checked the account. He checked his messages. Nothing changed. He walked into the kitchen and asked if payroll had been delayed. He tried to sound casual. He failed. I said I didn't know. He said his salary had never been late before. He said bills were coming up. He said he needed to move money today. I reminded him that I handled household accounts. He didn't argue. He just watched me, like he was seeing something unfamiliar. Elaine came in while we were talking. She asked Ryan if he had fixed the card. He didn't answer her. That scared her more than the declines. She tried calling the bank again. This time she was calmer. She gave her name. She gave the last 4 digits. She waited. The representative repeated the same line. They needed to speak to the primary account holder. Elaine asked who that was. There was a pause. The call ended. She didn't look at me, she looked at Ryan. Ryan didn't look at her either. By afternoon, the apartment started to feel stripped. No grocery delivery arrived. The wine cooler was empty. The housekeeper called to say her payment hadn't cleared. I paid her in cash and sent her home early. Elaine watched that exchange closely. She said nothing. Ryan left the apartment and didn't say where he was going. I watched his location update through the system I had already accessed. He went to the bank, then to an ATM, then to a second ATM. 3 attempts, no cash. When he came back, he didn't speak. He sat on the couch and stared at the blank television screen. The internet had been downgraded automatically that morning. Streaming no longer worked. Elaine finally broke. She said someone at the club had asked why her name was removed from the guest list for the weekend event. She said people were whispering. She said this was turning into a disaster. Ryan snapped at her. He said she should have stayed quiet. He said she shouldn't have taken the card out in public. She shouted back that none of this would have happened if he had controlled his wife. They both stopped when they realized I was still in the room. That night the power flickered once, just once, enough to notice. I checked my phone, another alert, automatic suspension notice pending. I didn't stop it. They still believed this was a temporary failure. They were wrong. The report arrived just after noon. I didn't open it immediately. I waited until I was alone. Then I locked the study door and opened the file. It was clean, timelines, photos, locations, dates, everything aligned with the transactions I already had, Ryan and the girl. Elaine with them, restaurants, stores, hotel lobbies. Elaine wasn't a bystander. She arranged things, she paid, she approved. One recording stood out. Elaine's voice was clear. She said I was temporary. She said Ryan would secure his position soon. She said the girl was the future. She said money wouldn't be an issue once I was gone. I closed the file. At that point, nothing else was needed. Not proof, not confirmation, not emotion. That evening, I came home earlier than usual. Elaine was pacing the living room. Ryan was sitting on the couch, elbows on his knees, phone in his hands. Neither of them spoke when I walked in. Elaine finally said we needed to talk. She said this situation had gone too far. She said accounts didn't just collapse without reason. She said I needed to stop whatever I was doing. Ryan backed her up. He said I was overreacting. He said couples went through rough patches. He said this wasn't how families handled problems. I didn't argue. I set my bag down and told them to sit. They did. I placed the envelope on the table. I didn't open it. I didn't explain it. Elaine reached for it first. She pulled out the photos. Her face changed immediately. She flipped through them faster, like speed could erase what she was seeing. She said they were fake. Ryan didn't say anything. He recognized the places. He recognized the dates. I placed the second folder down. The deed, my name, the date before the marriage. Elaine stared at it. She didn't touch it. Then the final document, the account structure, the payroll classification, Ryan's stipend, his status. Ryan finally spoke. He asked what that meant. I told him he wasn't employed. I told Elaine the card wasn't hers. I told both of them the house wasn't either. Silence followed, not disbelief, understanding. Elaine stood up slowly. She said I was trying to destroy their family. She said I owed them for giving me a place in their lives. I told her the audit was complete. Then I told Ryan to come with me the next morning, 10 a.m. my office. He asked why. I said he was overdue for a meeting with his real employer. That night no one slept. The last illusion was gone. Ryan arrived at my office the next morning thinking he could still fix things. He wore his best suit. He adjusted his tie twice before entering the building. He told the security desk my name like it was a password that would open doors for him. It did. He was escorted straight up. When he stepped into my office, he stopped walking. He looked at the space, the desk, the view, the nameplate. He didn't sit until I told him to. I slid a folder across the table. Inside were numbers, transfers, deposits, dates, 5 years of payments, every month, same amount, same source. He said those were his earnings. I said they were allowances. He said that wasn't possible. I showed him the classification, not salary, not consulting, spousal support. He went quiet. I told him the payments stopped yesterday. I told him the company vehicle was being collected. I told him the benefits tied to his name were already revoked. He asked how he was supposed to live. I asked him how long he thought he had been living already. Then I placed the divorce draft in front of him. He read the first page, then the second. He didn't reach the end. He said he wouldn't sign. He said his mother would get lawyers. He said they would take half. I told him to read the prenup again, slowly this time. I told him if he fought, everything would become public. Receipts, audio, photos, names. I told him the severance was conditional. He asked how much. I said 20,000. He laughed once. It sounded forced. He said it was an insult. I said it was mercy. He stared at the paper for a long time. His hands were shaking now. He wasn't angry anymore. He was scared. I told him he had 48 hours to vacate the penthouse. I stood up. That was the meeting. He left without saying goodbye. By the time he reached the elevator, his phone buzzed. A notification. Vehicle recovery scheduled. He didn't look back. Ryan didn't go home after leaving my office. I knew because I was watching. His phone location stayed parked for almost an hour. No calls, no messages. Then it started moving again. Fast, erratic. He was trying to think his way out of something that couldn't be negotiated. Elaine called me before noon. Her voice wasn't sharp anymore. It was controlled. Careful, she said we needed to speak privately. She said lawyers were unnecessary if family handled things properly. I said we could talk at home. When I arrived that evening, the penthouse lights were all on. Every room, like they were afraid of the dark. Elaine and Ryan were sitting together, close, united again. They had decided on a story. Elaine spoke first. She said I had misunderstood everything. She said the girl meant nothing. She said Ryan had been confused. She said none of this justified financial punishment. Ryan followed her lead. He said it was a mistake. He said he had ended it. He said we could reset if I restored access and stopped embarrassing the family. I didn't sit down. I placed my phone on the table and pressed play. Elaine's voice filled the room. Calm, certain, saying my name like it was an inconvenience, saying I was temporary, saying the girl was the future, saying money wouldn't be a problem once I was gone. Elaine stood up so fast her chair fell back. She said that recording was illegal. She said it was taken out of context. She said I was twisting things. Ryan said nothing. He stared at the floor. I placed another document on the table. A notice, service termination schedule, utilities, subscriptions, vehicle, all dated, all signed. Elaine asked if I was trying to leave them with nothing. I told her I was leaving them with exactly what they brought into the arrangement. She said I couldn't do this. She said the city would talk. She said my reputation would suffer. I told her the city already knew. I showed her the article draft, not published yet, just enough headline to read, just enough detail to recognize names. Her face changed. This time it stayed changed. Ryan asked me to stop. He said we could negotiate. He said he'd sign anything. He said he loved me. I told him love didn't survive audits. Elaine said one last thing before I left. She said I would regret humiliating her. I paused at the door and told her humiliation required an audience. Then I left. Behind me, the penthouse went quiet. Not calm. Empty. The fallout didn't come slowly. It hit all at once. The car was taken first. Ryan watched from the window as the recovery team loaded it without asking questions. He didn't try to stop them. He couldn't. The keys no longer mattered. An hour later, Elaine's club membership was suspended. The message was short: outstanding balance, immediate effect, no exceptions. Elaine called everyone she knew. The calls ended quickly. Some didn't get answered at all. People who had smiled at her for years suddenly remembered meetings, travel, emergencies. Ryan tried again to move money, smaller amount this time, still denied. He tried selling his watch. The offer came back low, desperate low. That evening, the power cut out. Not fully, just enough to make the silence loud. Elaine sat in the living room without speaking. Her phone was in her hand, but no one was calling anymore. She checked social media instead. She saw the comments, she saw the whispers, she saw her name appear without respect attached to it. Ryan came back late. He didn't have the bag he left with. He didn't have a plan either. He said the girl wouldn't answer. He said she had blocked him. He said people were laughing. Elaine finally asked the question she had been avoiding. What do we do now? No one answered. That night, a video surfaced. Short, clear. Ryan standing in a bar, holding a cheap bag, while the girl walked away with another man. The caption spread faster than the video. By morning, the story had finished telling itself. Elaine watched it on repeat. She didn't cry. She didn't scream. She just sat there, shrinking. Ryan read the comments until his phone battery died. I didn't watch any of it. I was already done. Ryan tried one last time. He came to my office without an appointment. Security called before letting him up. I allowed it. I wanted to see his face when he realized there was nothing left to ask for. He stood in front of my desk and said he was ready to sign. He said he didn't need the money anymore. He said he just wanted this to end quietly. I slid the papers toward him again. He asked if the offer was still the same. I said no. The severance was gone. He stared at me, confused, then angry. He said that wasn't fair. He said I was changing the rules. I told him the rules had never changed. Only his access had. He asked what would happen if he didn't sign. He asked how long I planned to drag this out. I told him I wasn't dragging anything. I had already moved on. He signed. Not because he agreed, because there was nothing else to do. Elaine called that night. She didn't shout. She didn't insult me. She asked if I could reconsider. She said she had been under stress. She said families make mistakes. I told her the agreement was final. She asked where she was supposed to go. I told her she had 48 hours. After that, the locks would change. She didn't respond. The next morning, movers arrived. Not for me, for them. Ryan packed quietly. Elaine supervised at first, then sat down when she realized no one was listening to her anymore. They left before sunset. I didn't watch them go. By the time the door closed, the penthouse was silent again, but this time it wasn't heavy. It was clean. They didn't disappear quietly. Ryan tried to rebuild the story before the truth settled. He told people the divorce was mutual. He said we had grown apart. He said money had complicated things. No one corrected him. They just stopped calling. Elaine tried something different. She reached out to old contacts, board members' wives, charity coordinators, people who used to answer on the first ring, Most didn't respond. A few replied with short, careful messages. None offered help. The apartment they moved into was temporary. That's what Elaine told people. Temporary sounded better than downsized. Ryan didn't argue. He spent his days sending resumes to firms that had never heard of him without my name attached. No one called back. The girl posted again. New photos, new man, new car. The comments were loud. Ryan didn't read them this time. He didn't need to. Elaine finally understood something she had avoided for years. Influence only worked when money backed it. Without that, her voice didn't carry. She tried once more to reach me. This time, it wasn't anger or negotiation. It was fear. She asked if there was any way to reverse things. She said she would apologize publicly if needed. I didn't answer. That silence did more damage than any response could have. Ryan signed the final papers 2 days later. No revisions, no conditions. His signature was unsteady. When it was done, the last account linked to his name was closed. Everything went quiet after that. No calls. No alerts. No attempts. The system balanced itself. The silence didn't mean peace. It meant isolation. Ryan learned that first. He woke up every morning and checked his phone. No messages, no reminders, no calendar invites. The networks he thought he had built were gone. They had never been his, they had been mine. He tried visiting offices in person. Security stopped him before reception did. His name no longer opened doors. It triggered questions. Elaine stopped leaving the apartment after the second week. The neighbors didn't greet her. The doorman didn't know her name. The invitations never came back. Bills started arriving. Real ones, rent, utilities, late notices. Ryan opened them slowly, like delaying would change the numbers. It didn't. He sold what was left. Clothes, accessories, things that once felt permanent. Each sale hurt more than the last, not because of the money, but because of what it proved. Elaine watched him do it. She didn't help. She didn't advise. She just sat and waited for something that never came. One night, Ryan broke. He called me from an unknown number. He didn't apologize. He didn't explain. He just asked if this would ever stop. I didn't answer. The next morning, he tried again. This time, he left a message. He said he finally understood. He said he had been blind. He said Elaine had ruined everything. I deleted it. Blame didn't change outcomes. That afternoon, Elaine received her own message. Short, direct, legal. Her name had been removed from a foundation board she had sat on for years. No reason given. She stared at the screen for a long time. Then she finally understood something worse than losing money. She had lost relevance. Ryan thought he could still be rescued. He showed up at the woman's apartment without calling first. He had rehearsed what he would say on the way there. He would explain. He would blame timing. He would promise recovery. The door opened only halfway. She didn't invite him in. He told her things were complicated. He said the divorce had turned ugly. He said money was tied up. He said it was temporary. She looked past him, not at him. She asked one question. When does the money come back? He didn't answer fast enough. That was enough. She told him not to come again. She said she had options. She said she didn't sign up to struggle. Then she closed the door. Ryan stood there longer than he should have. Then he left. That night, a photo appeared online. She was at a private event. Different man. Older, confident. His hand rested where Ryan's used to be. The caption said, "Safe now." Ryan saw it within minutes. Elaine saw it too. She didn't comment. She didn't defend him. She asked him what he planned to do next. He had no answer. The next morning, Ryan tried to borrow money. Not from banks, from people, former friends, old contacts. He framed it as a bridge, a short gap. No one offered help. One person told him the truth. They like the lifestyle, not you. That afternoon, Elaine received a letter. Formal, polite. It stated she was no longer welcome at an upcoming charity event she had attended every year for over a decade. Space was limited. Priorities had shifted. She folded the letter carefully and placed it on the table. That night, the apartment was quiet again. Ryan stared at the wall. Elaine stared at the floor. They finally understood the same thing at the same time. There was no comeback. Elaine stopped pretending after that. She stopped checking her phone every few minutes. She stopped dressing like someone was watching. She stopped correcting people who got her name wrong. Ryan noticed it first. The way she sat without speaking. The way she didn't comment when bills arrived. The way she didn't ask him what he was doing next. One afternoon, she finally said something. "This is permanent." Ryan didn't respond. He already knew. Later that day, the final notice arrived. Formal, legal, short. The last remaining account linked to Elaine's name had been closed. No appeal, no grace period. She read it twice. Then she asked Ryan a question he had never heard from her before. "Where will we go if they make us leave?" He didn't have an answer. That night, the building manager knocked. Polite, calm, he said the lease wouldn't be renewed. He said arrangements had already been made. He said there was nothing to discuss. Elaine waited until the door closed. Then she laughed. Not loudly, not hysterically, just once, sharp, empty. She said she had spent years teaching Ryan how to win. She said she had taught him how to use people. She said she had assumed control was permanent. Ryan finally snapped. He told her she had ruined him. He told her she had pushed him into things he couldn't afford. He told her she had promised protection. Elaine looked at him and said nothing. That silence ended the argument. 2 days later, they moved again. Smaller place, fewer boxes, no help, no observers. No one cared enough to watch. I didn't attend the final hearing in person. There was no need. The documents were signed, the accounts were closed, the assets were settled. Nothing was contested, nothing could be. Ryan didn't look at me on the screen. He stared at the table while his lawyer spoke for him. Elaine wasn't there. She had no standing. She had already been removed from everything that mattered. When it ended, there was no announcement, no reaction, just a quiet confirmation sent to my inbox. Case closed. Later that evening, I returned to the penthouse alone, not to live there, just to collect what I wanted, my things, my work, my files. The space felt different without them, smaller, useless. I didn't leave a note. There was nothing left to explain. Weeks passed, then months. Ryan stopped trying to contact me. Elaine stopped appearing anywhere I could see. Their names didn't come up in meetings. Their faces didn't show up in rooms that mattered. They became what they always feared. Invisible. One night while reviewing reports, I saw a familiar number attempt access. Denied, automatic, logged, forgotten. I didn't check who it was. It didn't matter anymore. What they lost wasn't money. It wasn't status. It wasn't comfort. It was access. And once that's gone, there's nothing left to negotiate. I closed the system and shut down the screen. There was no revenge left to take. Only silence. And this time, it belonged to me. You have reached the end of the text.